back, listeners, to the BizBlend podcast, the show where strategy meets story and business gets real and raw. I'm your host, Sana, and today we are diving deep into a topic that could add serious revenue to your bottom line. How email and SMS marketing, how they can drive an extra 200,000 to $400,000 per year for your business. And joining us is Nikita Vakhrushev. He's a digital marketing pro with 7+ years of hands on experience, from launching his own e-com brand to building a successful agency. And now specializing in email and SMS marketing, Nikita has worked with over 100 D2C brands and knows exactly how to turn email lists into profit engines. So, if you think email marketing is outdated or it's already optimized in your business, there's nothing much to do, think that again. This conversation might just change your revenue roadmap. So let's quickly get into it. So, Nikita, welcome to the show. And I'm really, really pumped up and excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Sana. And the first thing you mentioned is, people thinking that email is not the best channel anymore, or maybe email is dead. It's by far like my favorite thing to talk about because it's far from it.
That's true. That's true. And this is so common. In fact, adding me as well, including me, even at some point of time, maybe a year back, I used to think that email, SMS marketing, now they are mostly like treated as scams, or they just go into your spam inbox. It's nothing much valuable. But after doing a lot of, not lot of, but a few memorable campaigns specifically around email marketing, I could see that it still has got that spark. But I would personally love to know what exactly is the secret sauce that still makes email and SMS marketing so much relevant in adding revenue.
Yeah, absolutely. We can dive into all things email and SMS. One of the main things that I love about it is it's an owned media channel. Think of like yourself as like your own broadcaster, if you want to put it that way. When you're on social media like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, any of those platforms can take away your audience at any point. You're on rented land essentially. But when you have your own email list, you can communicate to your people that love what you're putting out, love the content you're putting out, or maybe even the products that you're putting out. And you can directly speak to those people through having their email. It's almost like having your own digital mailing address in a way, sending them out information about your business, sending them information about any new products that you're putting out or services that you're offering, and have a direct line of communication to people that support you the most.
Yeah, I think this particular aspect definitely gives such a huge motivation for focusing on this channel. So let's get specific into this. Nikita, that you have worked with over 100 direct to customer brands.
Mhm.
Um, what separates the top performers in email from the ones who struggle to get results, even if after creating customer centric content,
Mhm.
pushing out regular or maybe frequent emails and stuff like that.
I would say the biggest thing by far is just the consistency of communicating with your customers. Too many times, whenever I go into audit a potential client's email account, I see that they maybe sent out an email last week or maybe they sent out an email last month, but they're not consistently on top of mind with their customers, meaning they're not always sending out something. And it doesn't have to be an email every day. It could be something as simple as once or twice a week, you check in with your customer, updating them about anything new going on in the business or any new customer reviews or customer highlights, any product use cases, or nurture content that could be centered around your brand.
Hmm. Yeah, that is true. That is true. But some of the founders or our listeners would argue that um I have done that. I have been consistent, but most of the times the customer would either unsubscribe from the email list,
Mhm.
or the email would go into their spam. So why should I put my money into something which I do not even know, or I do not even can see in future working?
I definitely see where you're coming from, and like that is a very rational way of thinking about it. And I deal with this all the time. I would say it really comes down to, do you want to have direct contact with the audience that you own? Um, there are going to be hiccups and road bumps like deliverability. Like that's a big thing that we handle at Aspect. And it's important to have correct deliverability. We can talk about that, and we can talk about how to improve deliverability. But for the most part, on the analytics side, when we check all of our clients' accounts, we are seeing tens of thousands, if not more than hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in from email and SMS. And that's one thing I had to kind of break away from myself and like the mindset that I had, where it's like I'm not opening up emails. Like I'm not paying attention to these promotions, but I realize it's because I'm in a bubble of, being in the business network, or in the bubble of marketing, to where like I'm kind of immune to it. I have um like I'm not thinking about it like the average everyday, 9 to 5 like worker that's like busy doing all things in their life, and then they get an email about an offer, or they get an email about a new product launch, and they care about that brand specifically, and they'll participate in that offer, or they'll participate in the product launch.
Hmm. And how how did you arrive on this range? That extra 200,000 to $400,000 per year. I mean, was there any case study or a success story that kind of led you to give this, a metric or a number here in terms of revenue?
Yeah, definitely. I know it seems like a very large number, but that comes in from data itself. We're a very data driven company. Uh,
Mhm.
the average client that we work with is an e-commerce brand that's doing anywhere between 100 to $200,000 per year. Um, and whenever we audit these kinds of accounts with brands generating this much revenue, their email revenue is anywhere between 10 to 15% of their total revenue. So if you were to, take that in, let's break this down in an example. An e-commerce brand that's doing 100 grand a year or 100 grand a month, um, and 10% of that is coming in from email. So they're doing about 10K per month from email. And what we do is we typically boost them up to about 25 to 30% in email revenue, through the strategies, through the content, the automations, the campaigns, the deliverability, the testing, everything that we do at Aspect. Um, we help them add that additional 15 to 20% in revenue via email. So we additionally add an extra $240,000 a year, in revenue for that business. So that's where that figure comes from.
Got it. Got it. Any specific success story that you would like to share, which was
Yeah.
kind of, a learning one for you as well as a surprising one for the company or the client you worked with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this was like a few years back when we first started really diving deep into email and SMS. Like I've known this industry for like more than 7 years now, but we really went specific on email and SMS in 2021. And one of the first clients we had was Good Clean Love, and at the time they were doing about $30,000 a month in email and SMS revenue, and most of that was coming in from the campaign side. So the weekly or daily blast that you would send out to your entire list. Whereas their automations were struggling. Their automations were, they were running, like people were getting the automations, like the automation emails, but no revenue was coming in. So uh, it really surprised me at how powerful automations are, and how powerful these flows are when you're setting them up correctly. Because after we set up the initial, like we rebuilt all of the automations, and I think it was about 20 to 30 emails overall spread across 7 different automations. We were able to generate an extra 30 grand a month in revenue, through email for the business. So not only did we take them from 30K a month to now 60K per month generated from email marketing.
Wow. Wow. Okay. That's interesting. It's interesting. And you were mentioning about some of the um, guardrails or guidelines, behind making sure that the email campaign is optimized or efficient in terms of the deliverability.
Mhm.
Uh, so if you would like to share a few, I mean, I'm just being personally selfish because sometimes many times I've struggled with, especially when I'm doing any kind of cold outreach.
Right.
Um, I've seen many of my entrepreneurial friends struggling with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid concern, honestly, and it's okay to be selfish. Like, I'm sure if you're struggling with this, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of other people that are struggling with this as well. Now, the main difference between what we do versus cold email is the list that we manage is people that have already opted in to the email list. So, like, they already understand that they're going to be receiving communication from the brands that we work with. So it's a little bit different than cold email, but still, the same restrictions for deliverability apply. Just because someone gave you their email and said, "Yeah, I want to receive emails from you," doesn't mean that you're still going to end up in the primary inbox. So, spam and all of that is still like a valid concern. The main things that we want to look for, and it's like a step by step process. The first thing that I would recommend anyone that is concerned about their deliverability to go to mail-tester.com. I'm not affiliated with them. I just love their tool. You send a test email to their inbox, and from that test email, you can see exactly what's good or what's not good about your current email deliverability. They'll tell you if your certain like DNS records are out of place. They'll tell you if the content or the language that you're using in that content is maybe not the best for deliverability. They'll also tell you if your email domain is on any blacklists, meaning, if you sent out an email to the wrong, or if you sent out a campaign to the wrong email, then
Yeah.
it could be ending up on a blacklist. So, based off of that, if you want to call it audit information, you can then see exactly what needs to be improved. So if any of your email records, like your SPF, your DKIM, um, and your DMARC are not set up correctly, you will need to set those up first because that's like the main authentication that comes down to making sure that when you send out an email and someone's Gmail address sees that, okay, if all the authentications lined up, then that should be good for the inbox. Then it'll go over the content. But if it isn't, then it'll directly go to spam because it's not authenticated properly. There's definitely a lot more that goes into the deliverability side because it is very technical and maybe a little bit boring. But those are just like the general things I would do initially is just to see what your emails and like what's going on behind the scenes, like on the code side through mail-tester.com. And then basically work from there to see how you can improve your deliverability.
Hmm. And um, because I'm not very well versed into this, but this just comes from my experience. So
Mhm.
um, Gmail gives us an option that if you don't know the sender, just mark it spam. If you know the sender, then it will be added to your general inbox. So uh, sometimes when we are sending bulk mails to customers, uh, two problems which I normally see is number one, this particular feature, and secondly, whether the emails are correct or not. And sometimes when there are a lot of bounce backs happening in there,
Mhm.
um, there's a probability that the domain or the email domain will kind of get affected because of that.
Mhm.
Does do you have any like hack to it, or there are some prerequisites to make sure that this can be minimized?
Yeah, so we have an automated segment set up in our client's email sending platform. In this case, it's Klaviyo. In this segment, anytime we send out a mass email to like, let's say 10, 20, 30,000 people, and we see those people bounce, we would automatically exclude them from any future sends. So that's the first thing that we do. So you want to have your bounce rate to be as low as possible. Um,
Mhm.
because of obviously if you have a lot of emails bouncing, that means you're sending not the best messaging and you're not cleaning your list. So you do have to have that list hygiene. The next thing is we clean up our clients' email lists about once every quarter or or well, either once every quarter or once every 6 months, depending on the size of the list. And that essentially gets all those bad apples out of there. So if people are subscribed but they're not opening, or if people are subscribed and emails are bouncing, we obviously take those people out, but then we fully get rid of them off the email platform once a quarter and once every 6 months. Now, the other thing you mentioned is that option of like, hey, this is an unrecognized sender, uh, report to spam. One of the things that we've done in the past, to help skirt around that is whenever someone gets the first or second welcome email. So, like, let's say you're shopping for like a water bottle, and it's
Uh-huh.
like the welcome email or the welcome offer comes up on the homepage where it's like, hey, get 10% off. You put your email in and then you get those welcome emails. Within those welcome emails, we ask people to add us as a contact or to add us as a verified sender. Not only does this improve deliverability, but this also now makes sure that all of the emails that we send out um, are now going directly to their inbox, and they don't have that red or yellow flag come up saying like, hey, is this unrecognized?
Oh, wow. Wow. That's interesting. That's something really, really interesting to learn. Um, and let's also bring the SMS into this. So how does SMS or messages fit into this equation? Because now, we are even past the era of WhatsApp. So, what would you say? Can it complement email, or is it just a distraction for most of the brands?
I think it's a bit of both. It's definitely a new shiny object that is out in the marketplace. It is like a new revenue channel for businesses. Now, when it comes down to actually implementing, I think it's definitely useful for specific cases. I don't think it's as useful as email because number one, SMS does cost a ton more to operate because it costs about a penny per person per send. So if you have a list of 10,000 phone numbers, it gets really expensive really quickly. Instead of email, you're only paying for the platform cost. So there's that. But when it comes down to the shiny object, it seems like when people are marketing SMS, it's like a one size fits all solution where like it'll work for every business, but unfortunately, it doesn't work as great of an extent as people market it as, but for every business. Like for example, um, from my experience, working with businesses and brands that have a average order value below $100, it works really well. Even below $200, it works really well because at that price point, you can make a very easy impulse decision and buy the product that is being marketed. Whereas if you're trying to sell a product that is above $200 on average, it's a very tough decision to make. You're not on a whim spending $250 on something. You're gonna have to think about it. You're gonna have to budget it. And maybe you'll have to come back next month and actually buy it. So it's a lot tougher in our experience to sell products that are more expensive through SMS um, because it's just a tougher, it's a larger ticket item. That's where email is very powerful because at a lower cost, you can do a lot more nurture and a lot more selling through email without having to constantly pay to reach out to the person, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely. That definitely. And uh, is it effective? I mean, definitely. I mean, there are checks and balances, but is it effective from a data and ROI standpoint?
What do you mean by that?
As in, the SMS marketing.
Yeah, definitely. For specific brands, like I mentioned, like under $200 average order value, it makes
Mhm.
a ton of sense because then you're able to get a lot more customers at a lot faster rate. The open rates on SMS are, I think, like 90 to 95% on average. So most of the messages that you send out will be opened. Um, and even then, they're great tools for following up if someone was in the process of buying something. Like like checking out, but they abandoned that cart. Following up with email is great, it works, but following up with SMS works even better because you're going straight to their phone and people have their phones on them at all times. You know, maybe not everyone checks their email, but everyone checks their text messages, even if they don't reply. So it's a really great follow up tool in that sense. And it's an even better tool for general big sales periods that are going on within the business. Like if you're having like a 4th of July sale or Black Friday,
Yeah.
Cyber Monday, or even a new product launch. Like they work really well on staying top of mind for those big events. But when it comes to regular, like weekly or monthly sends, it's um, maybe not the best tool for that. Whereas email is.
Hmm. Yes, definitely. So, also before we wrap up, of course, we have to have, bring AI into this. So, with so many AI tools right now helping write and optimize emails, uh, do you see human crafted strategy becoming obsolete or even riskier, or it's going to stay?
I think for the next 1 to 2 years, human strategy is still going to be better. But eventually, the agency model of like an agency having you serve it, like having to service you, is going to be outdated. Um, in my opinion, what it's going to be geared towards is the agencies that have been running things like a legacy agency, for example. They have
Mhm.
a warehouse of data on all of their client operations, meaning like what the open rates are, what the purchase rates are, and what it's going to come down to is it's not about which agency is going to be performing the best, but which agency has the most amount of data to use and to leverage with AI to make the best decisions for the client. So the agency is essentially going to turn into a consultant that consults brands on decisions that they should make based off the amount of data that they have in their network, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Because I'm really, really curious. Because sometimes people may say that AI driven messages, they may or may not connect emotionally, or they just be like spamming inboxes, maybe with just smarter or clickable subject lines.
Mhm.
So with that, Nikita, if our listeners they would like to connect with you and explore more about the work you do around helping businesses and entrepreneurs build credible revenue on email marketing and SMS marketing, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. The best way to connect with me is through LinkedIn. It's just my name, Nikita Vakhrushev. Also, if you want to learn more on how to actually implement some of these strategies that I talked about, obviously it's a little bit high level on the podcast, but I go way deeper into it on my YouTube channel, which is again my name, just Nikita Vakhrushev. And if you want to actually work together and learn more, we have our website, which is aspectagency.com. That's ASPEKT agency.com. And um, for BizBlend listeners, we do offer a free audit. So when you're filling out the email audit, just type in that you came in from BizBlend and we'll get you right on.
Wonderful. I'll make sure to have all the links and details mentioned in the show notes. And thank you. Thank you so much, Nikita. This was such an eye opening and really insightful conversation on this aspect of marketing. Thank you so
Ab-
much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So, listeners, there you go. Whether you are just getting started or already have a well oiled email machine, there is definitely, clearly still untapped potential in your inbox and SMS. So, if you got value from this, hit that follow button and share it with a fellow founder or a marketer. And as always, stay tuned to BizBlend for more such bold conversations where we blend insight with action. Thank you to everyone for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.